we don't see the ripe fruits right now necessarily. And I think that in itself is pretty, just a first thing to look at with this holiday, because it kind of, reminds me of pregnancy. Like when a woman is in the first trimester, let's say, and she doesn't look very life-giving. She kind of looks more like, or at least for me, like sick, and like there's not anything very good going on, when really life is in the process. And that's really what's happening now. Our Arizal says that Tu Bishvat is the time that the first sap starts to rise in the trees, and we cannot see it, but it's happening. So it's a really great time of renewal. And it's great also just to remind ourselves that there's so much more going on beneath the surface, and we should always look a little deeper. And that's what we're going to do now. I think when a lot of people think of this holiday, they probably of eating dried fruit. Like that's what I did growing up, some dried out dates, or maybe thinking of the 7 species of fruits, or, the birthdays of the trees and the new year of the trees. And that is all true. But we're going to go a little bit deeper on that today. And what I want to start with actually is the ideas of the Hebrew month of Shvat. Now, if you don't know, I think it's maybe more Kabbalistic, but every Hebrew month has a different energy. Each one is auspicious time for a different tikkun, a different rectification, different work that we can do. And every month has a different body part and a different Hebrew letter connected with it. So I want to talk a little about that. The month of Shvat, the letter that's connected with that is tzaddik. Tzaddik is also a word that means righteous, a righteous person. We can be a tzaddikim. And so we see that there's got to be a connection between the concept of a tzaddik, of being righteous, and something connected with this month. And if we look back at the previous month, Tevet, the letter of that month was ayin. And if you put those two letters in order, ayin tzaddik, it spells eitz, which is tree. So it's already alluding that there's a connection between being a righteous person and a tree. So my first question is, what is that connection? How can we more emulate a tree, and how can we become more righteous by emulating a tree? So we'll get back to that. Number 2 about this month. If you notice, Tu Bishvat is the 15th day of the month of Shvat, and Shvat is the 11th month. So the 15th day of the 11th month corresponds to the letters of God's name, Yod, which is 15, and the Vav and the Hey, which is 11. So we have 15 and 11, 15 and 11. And this is coming to show us it's a time of interconnection and reunification. And what does this have to do with trees? Why is this significant? So we're going to look at that also. Third thing about this month is every month is connected to a body part and a special rectification for us to work on. Like there's an energy of the month that helps us work on something important, deep within. And this month's body part is the stomach. And the tikkun, the work for us to do, is correcting our relationship with eating and with our relationship with food. And that's so interesting because it's connected to the tree and to fruit. And if you look back far in history, you'll see that, the thing with Adam and Chava, with Adam and Eve, and eating from the tree, and how it ties to this time with the tree and the fruit. And what can we do? How can we sort of work on that and make that correction? So we'll talk about that. And the fourth thing is that the Torah compares man to a tree of the field. In the book of Deuteronomy, man is compared to an tree of the field, which is great because there are so many things that we're going to talk about that are amazing about trees that we're supposed to emulate. But you know what most people might not know is that trees aren't really so innocent, even though they're wonderful. If you want to know the first sin in history, it wasn't Adam and Chava eating from the tree. It was actually the tree. On the third day, God commanded the trees to have fruit that would taste like its bark. Rashi said it meant to be that you can eat the tree, like you can eat the bark, and it would be just as sweet and delicious as the fruit itself. But the tree didn't cooperate. The tree didn't listen to God on that. So that was actually considered the first sin of the tree. So given that, why are we compared to a tree? What can we do about this so-called disregard of God's will that the tree did, and how can we rectify that? So those are some 4 big points. I don't have a lot of time. I'm going to try to explain them all really quickly to you, but hopefully in a way that will be meaningful and you can really take these messages into your holiday and into your month. So the first one was the letter Tzaddik. And in Tehillim, it says Tzaddik katamar yifrach, like a tzaddik is compared to a date tree. So connecting ourselves to trees, like what is so wonderful about trees, that a tzaddik is like a tree and that we should strive to emulate like a tree. So there are many, but just a few basic ones that are probably obvious when you start to think about it is like a tree is deeply rooted and a tree is always reaching up higher. A tree provides fruit, provides shade. A tree provides building material and paper. A tree cleans the air, right? So all these things, like it creates a better atmosphere. It has deep roots that represents our faith, our belief in God, our also our principles and our integrity. And the tree itself is like representing our core, our character, our personality. And that is all so important. But then the branches where the fruit come, that's really where it is, because the fruit is our good deeds, our enthusiasm, our inspiration, and that can bring seeds to others and continue, just like a seed can plant more and more. So our good deeds, our actions, and the things that we do in the world are compared to. And so, these trees are constantly reaching higher and producing and giving and providing. And so that is one way, or many little ways, that we can think about trees and try to emulate that. So the second thing I brought up about 15th day of the 11th month, correlating to the 4 letters of God's name, the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey. So this month is a special time for renewal and interconnection and reunification. And the Yud and the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the letter Hey represent like the lower worlds and the higher worlds. And if you think about that connection with a tree and with humans, a tree is deeply rooted in the ground. This is earthly, but it's always reaching high toward and so are humans. Like when that's at least how we should be. Like we're here on earth, we have work to do, we have mundane work, but we're meant to uplift it and to bring godliness into everything we do. There really are not gray areas. We can really bring godliness into everything we do. And that's the purpose. And that really leads to the third point, which had to do with the work of correcting our eating. So the third point was about how this month is connected to the body part of the stomach, and our personal rectification, and this is a very auspicious time to work on this, is our relationship with food. And one of the things a tzaddik is praised for is how a tzaddik eats. How a tzaddik has the proper intentions, makes blessings, eats the right amount, eats for the purpose of serving God, not just for like impulsive, quick pleasure. And so there's so much we can learn from this, especially from the tree and what happened with Adam and Chava and the temptation. Food is always a temptation. And it's very easy to just, eat for the sake of eating. But we're being asked to uplift that. And eating is really holy work. And when you think about it, like the food that we take in becomes part of us, and we become part of it, and it interconnects. And how we take it in is important. And we have opportunities so many times, every time we eat or drink anything, to be mindful about it, to really chew, to have gratitude, to realize this is all of God's abundance, and to make a blessing and bring it into our body in hopes that we can do our purpose in the world and serve God. So having a mindset like that is one way to really begin the process of correcting our relationship with food and with eating in a spiritual way. And the fourth point that I had brought up was about how a tzaddik is compared to, tzaddik is like, we are compared to a tzaddik in the sense of we are, we should be like a tree, but the tree itself did this sin, right? The tree has something on it. The tree didn't listen to God. So what's up with that? Here's what happened. God commanded the tree that the fruit should taste like the bark. The tree didn't listen. But if you look in Ashes Chayil, the woman of valor that we read Friday night, there's a line in there at the end. It says, Tinu la mi priya deha. And give her from the fruit of her hands. And this, if you look deeper into it, this is referring to how the woman of valor corrected the sin of the tree. How so? What does it mean that a tree should have its bark taste like the fruit? Well, there are different ways to look at it, but two that I want to share with you. Number one, it means, and this is why the Ashes Chayil is praised for it, it means that our outsides, what we produce, what we give to the world, what we show to the world, how we act, should be in line with how we are inside, behind closed doors, when no one's watching us. That our insides should taste like our outsides, that the way that we show ourselves to the world should be the same way we act when no one's around, or with our family, or when we're not in the public eye. That there should be no discrepancy, and that we should be authentic. And that's one thing that the Ashes Chayil has corrected, that we also should work toward always. And the other one is about how it's important, and God wants us to enjoy the journey and enjoy the path, not just the fruit, not just the end result. So often when we have to do something, we're just focused on when it's over, and that's our pleasure. But the path itself and the work and the journey that's like the bark, and that part should taste the fruit. It should be just as joyful. So, just to have that in mind as whenever you're working toward anything in life, to realize, oh, I'm supposed to enjoy the ride also, not just the final destination. Okay, so I know I said a lot of different things, and I just want to recap so that when you sit down at your Tu Bishvat Seder, and when you are just in general this month thinking about what you can do and connect to, I want to remind you, number one, try to be more tree-like. We strive to emulate the tree, deepen our roots, deepen our faith, and always reaching high. Number two, we want to unite our physical and our spiritual, uplift what we do, just like the Yud and the Hey and the Vav and the Hey, just like the trees and the roots, just like we as Jews have to straddle two worlds. That's our goal. So there's nothing that can't be uplifted, and at the very least, just with our thoughts, as long as we bring attention in. Number three, eating with intention, eating what's right for us, what's healthy, eating the right amount, and having gratitude and chewing and being grateful for God's abundance. And number four, trying to have our outsides and our insides be the same, and to enjoy the path and the process of whatever we're doing.
What is Hashem? Thank you, Hashem.
Sunny, that was absolutely beautiful.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Absolutely beautiful.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Thank you.
So now we're going to go to Jennifer, and she's going to show us a special meal that we can prepare for Tu B'Shvat at our Seder using the special species. Jennifer?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I am Jennifer with JewFix, and I created this 7-species salad recipe. And normally salads are pretty kind of boring, but the ingredients in the salad make it really unique and special, especially for this holiday. And there's also a Kabbalistic explanation of the 7 species that I just kind of wanted to share with you a little bit. So first, to back up, the 7 species, if you don't know, are agricultural products whose first fruits of the season were the only acceptable offerings to the temple during ancient days. And so, as I mentioned, the Kabbalists explain that there's deeper significance to these fruits that correspond with the 7 divine attributes. So wheat represents kindness, barley represents severity, grapes represent harmony, figs represent perseverance, pomegranates represent humility, olives represent foundation, and dates represent the royalty. So I just thought that was kind of nice as you're putting together the salad to kind of think of those attributes as you are adding them in. kind of just enjoy it. So let's make a salad together. So I'm gonna actually turn my camera towards my countertop so you can kind of see what I am adding in. So 1 second. All right, so the first main ingredient of the salad I use is arugula. And so you just have about 4 ounces of arugula just kind of washed and dried right here in the bowl. I also pre-cooked some barley and quinoa. So the wheat quinoa represents the wheat, and then the barley represents the barley in the 7 species. And I just pre-cooked this, and it is already cooled down, mixed together, and then we're just going to add that into the arugula. Give that a little gentle toss to just kind of start combining everything together. This does tend to get a tiny bit messy with all the tiny grains in there, but it is very delicious. One of the other significant reasons using these 7 species is they all together have all the nutrients that we need to survive. So that's kind of another unique thing about the 7 species that I enjoy. So next to the salad, you are going to add in about half to a whole cucumber. I peel it and just dice it. So we're going to add the cucumber. And then I have also pre-measured and chopped some dates. So it's about 1/4 cup of dates, one of the 7 species. And for the grapes, I used golden raisin. So it's about 1/4 cup of each. The dates, we went ahead and just chopped them roughly. So we're going to go ahead and add that to the salad. And we have some beautiful pomegranate seeds, another one of the 7 species, and some pistachios for just a nice little crunch to the salad. Again, you're just going to gently mix everything together. I'm doing this a little bit quick. You might want to spend a little bit more time so it doesn't fly everywhere like mine is. And then the last thing you're going to add to the salad is a dressing. So I actually pre-made my dressing ahead of time. I like making them in mason jars so you can go ahead and just shake it up and combine it all. And in the dressing are the last 2 of the 7 species. So you have 1.5 tablespoons of fig jam, a tablespoon of olive oil, and a tablespoon of balsamic vinegar. So I'm just going to give it a whole little shake and add it to my salad. And then again, just go ahead and toss to combine. And so it's a little hard to probably see in here, but there's just so many beautiful colors from the pomegranate seeds and the golden raisins. I also used a little bit of red quinoa in there to give it some more color, and the arugula. It's just a really nice, light, fruity, crunchy, delicious salad. So, and I will go ahead and share the link to that so you can get the recipe and other recipes. I also created on my website, you can find it, a 7 species muffin. So it uses also the 7 species. They're really delicious. And yeah, so hopefully you can enjoy some of those recipes for Tu Bishvat.
Thank you, Jennifer. That looks so delicious. I'm going to definitely try it. So thanks for posting the link to the recipe in the chat if you can. That'd
Absolutely.
be great for all of our viewers.
Thank you.
So now we're going to have Hadar, and she's going to show us a challah recipe. Even though Tu Bishvat's not on Shabbos, we can make a delicious bread to go with our Tu Bishvat Seder. Hadar?
Hi, I'm Hadar Ethan, and I'm going to demonstrate to you how to, I already prepared the dough, so I can submit the recipe, but I'm going to just show you how to make a round challah and pull apart, and each pull apart will have one of the ingredient, one of the Tu Bishvat, one of the trees fruit. So I already prepared. I'm going to show it like that. So the challah has seven rounds, 7 rolls. So what I did is I took the dough, you take the dough and you divide it to 7 rolls. After we divide them to 7 rolls, we flat each one. We flatten each one so they look like a pita bread, just like that. And then I chose the 7 ingredients that I'm going to do. I'm going to put raisin. So in one of them, I'm going to put raisin. In one of them, I'm going to put carob chips. It's chocolate chips, carob, made from carob. One of them, I'm going to put almond. And I'm going to put date, all the fruit from the trees. I have pomegranate. And then I have apple that I put a little bit of cinnamon and brown sugar, mixing it. And the number 7 would be the wheat. The wheat that is one of the 7 ingredients for the trees. So then what I do is I close up each one like that. And I flip it and put it on a parchment paper. So I pull it. I twist and roll, and then I put next to it. Then I take the pomegranate, I close, flip, and I create kind of like flower shape. I'm going to show it to you from above in a minute when I close that. Actually, that's the empty one I should have put in the middle, because that's the wheat as one of the, this is the carob chips. And flip it, and the apple. I put it in a tray, and just like that. And when it's ready, it looks like that. I sparkle a little bit of almond on top. So I can open one to share how it looks inside. And when you open it, that's the one with the date. And that's the flower. That's the flower challah. Happy Tu Bishvat.
Hadar, that was so beautiful. I've never made a challah like that before. You really inspired me. Thank you so much.
And you can sparkle on top before you bake it. You can sparkle the almond. I mean, you put the egg wash on top, and then you can put almond and raisin and decorate on top as well.
Beautiful. Thank you, Hadar. Okay, so now we're going to go to Felicia, and she's going to share with us the different types of blessings that we say on different types of fruits. It's kind of going to be a little bit of a game. Are you there, Felicia?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you great.
All right. Awesome. So I'm about to share my screen. Please make sure you're not in gallery view. You should be in presenter view, so you should be able to see it. Except it says you disabled screen sharing, so you just need to enable it. Are you the host, Robin?
Yeah, I just enabled it so you can share.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you. Okay, so this will probably be review for many, but it's still pretty fun to go through. So what is a fruit? So we have fruits and vegetables, but we say fruit of the tree or fruit of the ground, right? So those are our two brachos that we make. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam borei pri ha'etz. Blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the tree. So that's one type of fruit. And then we have, blessed are you, Lord our God, ruler of the universe, who creates the fruit of the ground. So we have fruit of the tree and fruit of the ground. So what's a tree? When we say we're celebrating Tu B'Shvat and we're concerned about trees, what do we consider a tree? So on the left, we have a banana tree. In the middle, we have pine nut trees. And on the right, we have grapevines, grape trees, so to say. So which of these halachically do we consider a tree? And which would we say is fruit of the ground? Okay. So the halachic definition of a tree is any perennial that does not renew its stem or central trunk and does not grow too close to the ground. So additionally, there are laws that apply specifically to trees, such as the prohibition of eating the fruit of the tree in the first 3 years, orla, as well as a special prohibition of cutting down a fruit tree. And there's also a 7-year agricultural cycle in Israel, concluding with the sabbatical year. So there's a lot of interesting halacha with trees specifically. And Tu B'Shvat, we say it's like the new year. It's like the Rosh Hashanah for trees. And why is that important to know? Because you have to know when the year starts, right? When you're considering these laws. So our rabbis established that a fruit which blossomed before the 15th of Shvat is from the previous year. And if it blossomed afterwards, now it's the produce of the new year, right? So that's how we count. That's why Tu B'Shvat, one of the many reasons. So let's go back to our trees. So we have our banana tree, pine nut trees, grapevines.
Today?
No.
Oh,
Not Tuesday,
okay.
when?
Oh.
Tomorrow?
So, okay, what do we say for this one? I think someone needs to mute. What do we say for the banana tree? Is it ha'etz? Well, let's think about it. Banana. It is perennial. The central stem dies and regrows each year. So that's a problem. At that point, we say, no, it's not. We do not consider bananas fruit of the tree. We do not say ha'etz on it because the central stem dies. And you can even see it in the picture. The green stem coming out from the brown that's on the bottom. You can see that it's regrowing each year. So it's not ha'etz. All right. Grapevines, just because it's a vine, it's still considered a tree. Pine nut trees, yes, they are ha'etz, right? So this is the interactive part. You guys are welcome to chat if you want. Which ones here are considered fruit of the tree? Let's see if you can get them. Okay, some of them are hadama, some of them are ha'etz. Which ones are ha'etz? Fruit of the tree. I'm gonna give you guys a moment if you want. You can do it in your head too.
If you want to
chat it.
and you want to guess which one is the fruit of the tree, don't be shy.
Yeah. I'll give you a hint. It's 6 and 6.
Nee, ik wil dat. Hat mir an der Tat ist, ich soll die alles, was hat eingesehen.
All right.
What is from the ducks haben it's a Wasser Arbeit. I don't see Wasser.
Someone could please mute themselves who's having a conversation.
Was geht das?
I don't think they hear us. Maybe somebody else can mute them. An administrator can mute them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Here we go. Fruit of the tree. These are our fruits. So pineapples are vegetables, are hadama. Cashews are fruits, right? Isn't this amazing? You guys, this whole time I thought cashew were nuts, but no, they're fruits. They're fruits of the tree, okay? Avocados are also fruits. Olives are fruits. All right, figs are fruits, yeah. So everything in blue, we say Borei Pri Ha'etz on, okay? And yeah, so we talked already about some of our customs. So we eat from the 7 species and try new fruit this year. That's, you're gonna say Shechianu on it. And there's lots of, I think I've tried most of the fruits in this picture, but not this year I haven't. So that's definitely another custom, is to try something new for this year. And that's it.
Thank
Great
you,
to see you
Felicia.
guys.
That was so educational. To see the difference between the brachas, the blessings that we say on the different types of fruit or vegetable. Now we're going to go to Devorah. And what is Tu B'Shvat without a glass of wine? So she's going to explain the significance of having wine at our Tu B'Shvat Seder. Devorah.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to be on this Zoom Shvat. And I just want to say how exciting it is to be with Arizona. Last year at this time was the first trip I ever took to Arizona. And we were hoping to go back this year, but looks like this is as good as it gets. And anyway, you've got snow, right, Robin? So I got enough of that here. All right. Anyway, I have the wonderful treat of telling you about the 4 cups of wine at the Tu B'Shvat Seder. So first of all, just a little bit about wine. Wine is obviously a very special drink in Judaism. Wine is a drink that we use at special occasions, right? When a new baby's born, at the bris, at a wedding, to usher in Shabbat, and when Shabbat leaves. So wine has an incredible power to it. First of all, we know that like everything in the physical world, but wine specifically, has the ability to elevate a person, but it also comes with the opposite, which is the ability to debase oneself with. So like everything in the physical world, we have a choice to use wine to elevate ourselves. Now, wine actually is compared to Kabbalah. And we know that the whole Tu B'Shvat, as Sunny mentioned at the beginning, is very Kabbalistic in nature. As much as what we've explained today and what we understand, there is so much that is a secret about Tu B'Shvat that is very difficult for us to understand. And wine, the word wine in Hebrew is the word yayin, and it has the same numerological value as the word sod, secret, right? Yayin equals 70. I'm not going to go through the numerological mathematical thing, but it equals sod, which is secret. And there's a saying in the Gemara, nichnas yayin yotze sod, that when wine goes in, secrets come out. And of course, it's not only in terms of the depth of Kabbalah, but even with a human being, when they drink wine, they tend to become, let's just say, a little bit more open, a little more transparent about themselves. And the Gemara even goes on to tell us that you can know a person very well by how they behave after they drink wine. Okay, so I want to begin with the first cup of wine. First of all, the 4 cups of wine are representative of the 4 seasons. And the Maharal, a great rabbi who lived many years ago, tells us that the natural world around us is meant to inspire us to become better people. And so each cup of wine represents a different season of the year. So the first cup of wine I'm going to show you right here. This is a cup that you fill up with white wine. And of course, white wine represents the season that we're in right now, which is winter. Winter representing, maybe snow and a white, anyway, it represents the snow and the cold and the whiteness. Okay, now in all other cultures and civilizations, winter is always associated with the long white beard, right, with old age. However, Judaism sees winter differently. The Hebrew word horaf is actually connected to youth. It's actually connected to the beginning of life. And it makes sense because we're talking about Tu Bishvat that comes out in the winter. And also, like Sunny said and others have said, even though we can't see it, underneath the ground, there's a revolution taking place. The world is beginning to change, and the sap is beginning to rise in the tree. And the beginning of life is starting, even though we can't see it. And so winter is a time of rebirth. And I was thinking, you know, recently, thank God, my husband and I just welcomed in 2 new baby girl granddaughters, actually born 3 days apart, which was quite exciting and exhilarating. And I was thinking, you know, why do we get so excited when a new baby is born? And one of the answers that I came across is that we get excited, you know, like this baby can't do anything, right? It doesn't do anything. It cries, it wets, it eats, but it hasn't done anything, but we're so happy. Why? So the answer is because this child is all potential, right? It's all potential. This kid can grow up and be anybody it wants to be. It could be the next president of the United States, right? She could be the next president of the United States. He could be the next stay-at-home mom. I don't know. Anyway, the point is he could be anything. And that's what we're celebrating. We're celebrating the incredible potential that a newborn baby has, and that actually each one of us has as a newborn. And so winter is really the time of celebrating that potential. Now, how do we reach our potential? So, very important part of Jewish growth is the idea that in order to reach one's potential, we have to know our strengths and we have to know our weaknesses. And we have to recognize that those strengths and weaknesses were given to us by God. We had no choice in them. But what our job is on this earth is to know ourselves, to take those strengths and those weaknesses and use them in order to become more of who we can be. My mother used to say, and I'm sure she got this from somebody else, but she used to say this wonderful phrase. She used to say, who I am is God's gift to me, but who I become is my gift to God. So winter and potential is telling us that the way to grow is to know our particular and unique strengths and weaknesses and to use them in service of God. Very important too that we don't compare ourselves to others, because each one of us is so unique. Okay, I want to continue with the next cup. So the second cup represents spring. And what we do is we take another cup of white wine and we splash in a drop of red. Ta-da! And this represents spring. And of course, if you've ever been in Israel, when the first spring comes, we have almond blossoms, and up north in the Galilee, there's poppies, red, bright poppies that are everywhere. And when I think of spring in Israel, that's what I think of. Anyway, spring, of course, is the time when we now see the potential coming into reality, the blossoming that before was taking place under the winter. Okay, the third cup of wine is summer. Summer, we add more red to our third cup of wine. And of course, summer is when everything is in full bloom, when potential has been actualized, so to speak, to the maximal. And we see the fruits of our labors. And we enjoy the beauty everywhere of God's world and the beauty within that our souls possess. And finally, the last cup is autumn. Autumn is a completely red cup of wine, as you can see. And autumn is a time too of color. If you live in Canada and you have 4 seasons, it's an incredibly beautiful time when the leaves are changing colors. And of course, as autumn continues, they start falling off from the trees. But it's a time when people and animals prepare themselves for the winter ahead, and go inward, become contemplative and introspective. And this cycle of the seasons is very much corresponding to the cycles of a human being. That time, rather than being linear in Judaism, is a spiral. And every year as we go through the seasons in the natural world, we're also going through the seasons of our own specific soul and what our soul is composed of and the potential that's there in our personalities through our neshamas to bring into the world that is completely unique. If I have one more minute, I want to just say one more interesting thing, that the 4 cups also represent the 4 elements in the world. The world is composed of fire, water, earth, and air. And so too, our rabbis tell us that every single human being is composed of these 4 elements. And what makes each of us unique is how much of each one we have within us. Some people are more fire people, right? They're the passionate ones, the ones who really, get excited about things. Water represents pleasure. Water flows wherever you let it, if it's not confined. Water are people who enjoy the pleasure and the beauty in the world. Earth are those people who are more very solid, right? They're solid as the earth. You can rely on them. And of course, wind represents speech, people who like to talk, and also movement, people who like to move around a lot. So each one of us is composed of all 4, but when we can find out what our predominant element is, this is another way of unlocking our incredible potential. So I just want to end by telling you that, God willing, we should all be blessed this Tu B'Shvat with bounty and with material blessing and with spiritual blessing. And before I say the wonderful Jewish words of L'chaim, I just want to mention that the word L'chaim, to life, has 2 yuds in the middle, which represent God's name. One of God's names are represented by the 2 yuds. So we know that when we make God the center of our lives, we can truly live a complete and meaningful life and say L'chaim, to life. Thank you.
L'chaim, that's so beautiful. I'm looking forward to doing that with my family. I do want to point out that with my kids, what I do is I take grape juice and simulate the same concept with the wine and just add a little bit of white grape juice or the dark grape juice. So you can do that also for your kids if that's what they would like to do at your table. Okay, so thank you so much, Devorah. Now we're going to go to Karen, and she's going to share with us some meaningful things about trees. And then if we have time, we'll end with a poem. Karen?
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for inviting me to this program. Tu B'Shvat does mean a lot to me. We've enjoyed so many Seders together with so many people in our community, and it's great to be here on the East Coast right now. I am seeing a completely different perspective of trees, and being that it's around Tu B'Shvat, it really has made a different kind of impact on me. Always being in Arizona and the warmth and seeing trees that still have leaves on them. It's sometimes hard to really get the perspective that there is new growth coming, in these trees that have no leaves on them. And it definitely is a breathtaking sight. I know people maybe who have lived here longer, I'm just visiting. But I'm really in awe of the meaning of the tree just by looking outside my window. And then having Tu B'Shvat as the backdrop now is just giving me so much strength and like a tree. So this has been quite a year. We had a beautiful Tu B'Shvat last year, and since then, just about things have really changed, and everyone has their perspective. And I know most of us search for the positive, look and search for the meanings, and believe that there is a purpose for all of this, a good purpose, and that we are going to really truly benefit from all of the growth that we've had over this year. And I found an article on Aish.com that I thought was really beautiful. There's so many sources, and I've enjoyed so much hearing what everyone else has shared so far. And it was difficult to choose something, but I chose an article called 4 Amazing Trees, and it's a memoir. It was written back in 2013, way before what we're going through now. But I feel that the messages that she shared, her name is Debbie Gutfriend, are so relevant today, through this year, and moving forward. So she spoke of being in Israel and being so hot in 110-degree weather, which in Arizona we can relate to that, and finding a tree that almost looked like a mirage in the beginning, but really was a tree at the edge of a mountain, where they found some shade in the Dead Sea area, and just enjoyed some of the shade that it provided. And as she thought about that tree, she wanted to discover more about trees. So she is highlighting 4 specific trees that I'm going to share with you. The first is the giant sequoia, and it's found in the redwood forest, and it is 2,700 years old. It's 275 feet tall, and it measures more than 100 feet around its base. And as we look at all of these trees, we see messages that we can take into our lives and really emulate the tree, as Hashem gives us everything to learn from, to grow from, to blossom, and to really change ourselves. And in this particular tree, in the giant sequoia, we look at how high it grows from its roots, from the ground, and that as Hashem wants us to continue to grow to our spiritual heights, we can see the giant sequoia growing so high above the ground, and it teaches us to always reach higher and higher, even with difficulty, even with challenges, and in happy times, that we always learn that each occasion is a message for us to take from and to learn. The next tree that she talks about is called the quaking aspen, and it's found in Colorado. And I was so amazed to read that it spans, I said Colorado, sorry, it's Utah. It spans over 100 acres in Utah, but every single one of the trees is from one single organism under the ground. They all share the same root system. And even though it weighs over 6,000 tons, it's the heaviest organism, but it all comes from the very same source. And of course, that is who we are as Jews. We come from one source. We come from Hashem, a divine spark that we can always draw from, again, in any time of happiness or sorrow, challenge, and that we, all are one people. We're all, even though these trees themselves all look identical, we all as people, we're all different. We all have different personalities. We have different appearances. We have different qualities in us, and so we don't look all the same. But and we don't behave all the same. But it's important to remember that we do all come from the very same source. In the third tree that she highlights, it's called the Parangi cashew tree. And this tree is found in Natal, Brazil. It's 177 years old. And it covers almost 2 acres of land. And wherever this tree touches the ground, it sparks, it puts down roots and grows another tree. The same tree, but it grows another life. And it is and so it tells us that each tree grows in a different way. You know, it's part of the tree, and we learn that there's hundreds of ways to grow. Each person has their own innate path, and it's up to them to lay down their roots and then sprout out from those and reach forward and outward. The last tree that she speaks of is called the tree of life. It's found in the Bahrain desert. It's located hundreds of miles from any other tree. It lives in very, very harsh conditions, and the roots are hundreds of feet down to find the aquifers to continue its life. It's believed to be over 400 years old, and it's one of the loneliest trees in the world. From this, we learn that we can survive in any conditions, difficult ones, whether we're feeling alone or isolated, or even in groups, and just feeling whatever we're feeling, that we don't feel connected. We do have the power to access. We can access Hashem. We can access Torah. We can access our life source wherever we are. We make the mistake of believing that we're fragile, and that we're vulnerable to the elements. But if we because we're just physical, but if we remember that we can really we can always access what we need if we take a few moments to breathe, to meditate, whatever it takes, to dive in, to read Tehillim, to get the strength that you need. We aren't fragile. We're actually there's a term called anti-fragile. It's written in a book by Nassim Nicholas Taleb called Anti-Fragile: Things That Gain from Disorder. So even though we may think we're fragile, we're actually the opposite. We're anti-fragile. We are resilient, and we, even in stress, and the stress can bring out the best. If we remember and we that we do have the strength inside of us in many different ways and sources. Just remembering, just being those small, short, high intensity workouts can accomplish much more than a longer, moderate workout. So we need, just like we need our physical bodies and our physical muscles to grow, we also can push our muscles spiritually as well, that there really is no limit. So our souls, they want to reach the heights of the giant sequoia and yearn to grow like the Parangi cashew tree, but they need to be challenged and stressed and stretched. It's funny, I was listening to Jamie Geller, excuse me, not even Jamie Geller, the woman who does the Shadels, I can't think of her name right now, but she talks about stress and stretch. And if we look at our stress as stretching, that maybe we have that kind of new perspective, to just stretch ourselves, to just reach a little bit higher each day, that we are anti-fragile, and that we can push through and break through our shell and even go outside of our comfort zone. I think that I hope that gives you some things to think about. Remembering our trees, and just enjoying this season and growing and blooming. At
Thank
the
you,
right time.
Karen. Thank you, Karen, for sharing those beautiful words about the tree. I want to encourage people, if you want to actually get the Seder on how to actually run a Seder, you can go to h.com and just put in the search bar. You can put in Tu B'Shvat Seder, and it'll give you the different fruits and the order of the Seder and the wine and the different blessings that you can say. There's a few different types, but that's an easy one to get online. And I wanted to also share with you before we end is that if you go to Google Images, you can put in images of trees and you can decorate your table with little lessons from a tree. I found all these cute little sayings. Why not go out on a limb? You know, here's a really beautiful tree. And it has little sayings of trees and pictures of trees. And I just laminated them and I put them on the table, and it's fun for the family to see. Here's a tree with strong roots, laughs at storms, which is what we're in right now. So I want to thank you all for coming. And I really appreciate all of our speakers today sharing their words of wisdom about salad and wine and the bread. So thank you all for coming, everybody, and stay tuned for some additional programs that we'll do next month on for Purim, and then also getting ready for Passover. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming.